YouTube. Impact Wrestling fans, I'm here once again with the Impact Wrestling review. We're in Las Vegas still. We are on the way to Impact Wrestling Homecoming. I cannot wait for that. Feel free to hit that subscribe button on this YouTube page. Feel free to follow me on Twitter at OMGCoreyB and at the number 2 Sweet Pod. That's 2 Sweet Pod. So we're going to hop right on into this. We started off with Willie Mack versus Jay Chris. It was the Ultimate X qualifier. And man, I got to say that if Impact gets one thing right, it is the start of the show. This is the beginning of the show. They start with bangers. And you see two guys, like I say every week, you see two guys and you automatically think bangers sometimes. And Willie Mack and Jay Chris are definitely two guys. You see them coming up the ramp where you see them about to hop into a match for a spot, in the Ultimate X match. You think, man, this is going to be a banger. And that it was. I enjoyed every bit of this match. The pace was up-tempo, exactly what it should be for the X division. I love Willie Mack, man. That guy's a big guy, the new age big man. Like I always say again, that can move around with the little guys, that can muscle around the big guys. And he's one of those guys that can move fast as well. He about killed Jay Chris with that sunset powerbomb from the top rope. Jay Chris landed on his head, for goodness sake. I saw that and I said, ooh, man, I hope he's all right. And he popped right back up, surprisingly. So, I mean, this was a fantastic match. Jay Chris picked up the win because of the OVE distraction. I like this result, the way they got to the result. It's very surprising. We had some very surprising results in the X Division qualifiers. I fully expected Willie Mack to move on and into the X Division title match at Homecoming, So, I mean, it was very surprising, but I have no problems whatsoever with Jay Chris getting into the Ultimate X match, and it should be a fantastic match going forward. Next up, we had Tessa backstage talking about Taya, how she was just Johnny Impact's wife, and she was joined by Moose backstage, talked about what they would do to get the win tonight. So, the win Thursday night, So, after that, we had Dark Alley versus Heather Monroe, and I gotta say that I was very interested to see Dark Alley, how they would go about this. And I gotta say that all the way going down to the entrance music. You see, this is what I'm talking about. If I may make a reference to WWE, if you guys don't mind, Becky Lynch had this character transformation and her theme music is still the same. Like, I have a huge problem when you have somebody go to a character transformation, especially a heel character transformation or something towards a heel or along those lines. You have to have different theme music. Like, you can't have Sting go from Beach Blonde Sting to Crow Sting and still have the same music. And looking at Dark Alley, they changed her theme music. Obviously, she couldn't keep that upbeat face theme music that she had, so they changed the theme music. So I like that, and I love the theme music as well. Looking towards this match, I thought it was a very slow moving match. I never really got invested into it. I thought Heather Monroe got in too much here, and at the end, Allie obviously picks up the win with the code breaker. But I gotta say that I didn't really enjoy the match, to be honest. Post-match, Allie went for the mandible claw, locked it on, but Kiera Hogan came down for the save, and she ate a code breaker for her troubles. And the story continues with Kiera Hogan and Allie. We'll see how that all plays out. I'm pretty sure we'll get a match at Homecoming. We'll see in the future. So moving on, Willie Mack and Rich Swann kicked it backstage. Rich Swann tried to talk Willie Mack down. He wants to destroy OVE. Next week, we'll have Rich Swann versus Dave Chris, and Willie Mack said that he'd have his back. After that, we got Rohit Raju and Raj Singh, the Desi Hit Squad, and what was a glorified squash match, to be honest. And I gotta say that I didn't have a huge problem with the match. It's just that the Desi Hit Squad, like I've been saying this for months now, it's like they're missing something. And you know, if you've been listening to my reviews or whatnot throughout all of these months, you know my solution to it. It is a Gama Singh beatdown. That's my solution to all of this. You have the Desi Hit Squad beat down Gama Singh. I've been saying this for months, by the way. You give him that Paul Ellering beatdown that the Road Warriors gave Paul Ellering, and you just give them that heel feeling. And I think that's something that they're missing. They need something. Like, it's the Desi Hit Squad is just missing something, and it's just hard to get invested into them. It's not that they're doing anything outwardly bad, and it's not that Gama Singh is bad either. It's just that they're missing something, and I think a Gama Singh beatdown would be it. They would go on to win in the squash match, obviously. We'll see what goes on with the Desi Hit Squad going forward. So after that, we had Ethan Page, Matt Sydal backstage, and they went over things for their match. They prepared for the match, and we're still having Matt Sydal talk about this third eye stuff. You know, I'm a person that thinks that I want to see this third eye talk go away once and for all. We'll see how it plays out going forward. After that, we had Katarina, and she was interviewed about her loss to Jordan Grace. And she brought out a new wrestler, Ruby Reyes. And I gotta say that I don't know much about Ruby Reyes, but I'm interested. She said that Ruby would be Jordan Grace's worst nightmare. And looks like we have a match on our hands. And I could imagine it going down at Homecoming. Maybe we get some build next week. Maybe it goes down next week. We'll see. Although I'd love to see it go down at Homecoming. It looks like it's gonna be an interesting match, and I cannot wait to see Ruby Reyes here. And I will be very interested to see how they play this angle out going forward. So after that, we had Eli Drake with Mackenzie, and Eli Drake revealed that it will be a Monsters Ball match at Homecoming. Eli Drake versus Abyss. And I'm in on that match. We got a story to it. Not the greatest story of all heading into the match, but Eli Drake Abyss, I can get invested into it. And it should be a fabulous match at Homecoming. So after that, we had the Rascals doing that 70s show, and we had the smoke-filled room and everything else, and all of a sudden we heard ba-da-da, ba-da. It was Scarlett Bordeaux. She talked about how she was impressed with the Rascals, and she was impressed with them because she was doing her talent search, and she was looking, and all of a sudden Scarlett just disappeared out of nowhere like David Copperfield. And this was a hilarious segment. I enjoyed every bit of it. The Rascals, they are very much growing on me week by week. I didn't enjoy the 70s show gimmick at first, but I'm enjoying it now. It just took a little bit to grow on me, and I'm enjoying it. And obviously, you know how much of a fan I am of Desmond Xavier, and I enjoy these guys. They are phenomenal workers, and who knew that they were phenomenal personalities as well. So I'm very much interested to see what they do with the Rascals going forward. After that, we had Ethan Page versus Matt Sydal. This match got a lot of time, and it was a very enjoyable match. I gotta say, I enjoyed it very much, and we had a 6 spot where Ethan Page hit a cutter on the apron, and I was like, oof, man, that was sick. That led us into the commercial break. These guys have tremendous chemistry. I enjoyed the match. And Ethan Page, surprise, surprise, would go on to pick up the victory on a roll-up. And Matt Sydal will not be in the Ultimate X match. I thought that Matt Sydal being in the Ultimate X match at Homecoming was during their lock And surprise, surprise, we had a surprise, in my opinion, with Willie Mack losing in the opening match. We had a surprise here. So I enjoyed the match overall. We had two guys that are really good workers. We'll see how Matt Sydal takes the loss going forward next week. And I can think that as it pertains to the X division, they knocked it out of the park on this recent episode of Impact. So after that, we had Eddie Edwards at the Asylum, and I gotta say that last week, have you seen the review? Have you seen my top takeaways? I said that I did not enjoy the segment with Eddie Edwards and Moose. And if I'm not mistaken, that was last week. Either last week or the week before. I did not enjoy the segment with Eddie Edwards and Moose. I just couldn't get invested into it. I didn't find it interesting whatsoever. But this week, Raven appeared out of nowhere, and I gotta say, I enjoyed the segment. I made a lot of sense. Raven was there, talking Eddie Edwards down, talking about how he dealt with some things in the past as well. He also stole a key card, gave it to Eddie Edwards, and Eddie Edwards is breaking out of the asylum. I thought this was a solid segment, and I'm interested to see where it goes. You know, Eddie Edwards breaks out. Pretty sure he's coming for Moose. We'll see. Raven popping up on Impact in 2018. Man, it just gets weirder and weirder in 2018. And I enjoyed Raven here as well. So after that, we had Conan and LAX meeting up with Phoenix and Pentagon. Conan was all happy all of a sudden about the match. And then he said he didn't want their tempers to flare or whatnot. And then after that, you know, Pentagon, he got in Santana's face. Then Conan got upset. Santana was upset. Conan is ticked off again. He stormed out as well. After that, we had the main event, Moose and Tessa Blanchard versus Johnny Impact and Taya. And I gotta say that this was a pretty decent match. I think that Taya and Tessa Blanchard, their chemistry is just phenomenal, and I think that they carried the match here. That's not to say that Moose and Johnny Impact was bad in any way. I enjoyed their back and forth, but Taya and Tessa Blanchard, they really carried the match here. They have phenomenal chemistry, and I cannot wait for their match at Homecoming. And at the end of the day, Johnny Impact and Taya would go on to pick up the victory over Moose and Tessa Blanchard. And I enjoyed this match. They made Taya look really good. They got a tap out on Tessa Blanchard. I was very shocked at that. If I may relate it to something in WWE, Drew McIntyre picked up a clean pinfall loss recently on a Raw, and that shocked me just as much as seeing Tessa Blanchard tap out in the middle of the ring. So Taya gets a very credible win here heading into Homecoming. So after the match, Moose speared Johnny Impact, and it looked as if Tessa would get the beat down on Taya with a chair, but Killer Cross came in out of nowhere, and he took the chair from Tessa, surprisingly. So that brought down Brian Cage. He cleared house. He clotheslined Killer Cross, if I'm not mistaken, and Killer Cross bailed. And then we have quite the storyline here, because Killer Cross is going to get involved in some way at Homecoming, and I just hope that it doesn't take away from the match that is Brian Cage and Johnny Impact, because that is going to be a phenomenal match. I hope it doesn't have like a crap finish. I mean, obviously at this point, Killer Cross is so involved in this storyline that something has to go down. I just hope that it doesn't take away from the match. So that was it for this episode of Impact. And I gotta say that overall, you know, last week I did not enjoy the episode of Impact. I thought that there was too much talking. I didn't think that this episode was great, but I thought that it was definitely a step up from last week as it pertains to pace. We didn't have a whole lot of talking in this episode of Impact like it was last week. So I enjoyed this Impact from a pacing standpoint. I thought that they did really well. It wasn't a great episode of Impact, but you can't be great every week. We still haven't hit that stride yet that we had, once before where they had great episode after great episode after great episode. They were really knocking it out of the park. But the build to Homecoming has been done really well. I'm looking forward to that, and I'm excited for that as well. I'm excited for next week as well. So let me know what you thought about Impact Wrestling. The most recent episode, let me know on YouTube, or if you want to hit me up on Twitter at OMGCoreyB or at the number 2 Sweet Pod. That's 2 Sweet Pod. Let me know your thoughts.